Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of What the Hell God, Making Sense Out of Our Life. I'm so excited because I have Angel here with me today, and I'm glad that she
Hi.
has chosen and said, hey, I would love to be on the show. So, Angel, welcome. So glad that
Hi
you're
there.
here.
I am too.
So
Hi there.
yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a single parent living in Columbus, Ohio. I'm a hairstylist, have my own business doing that. And I'm also somebody that is active in nonprofit single fam, and I am in recovery. In September, if I make it, I'll have 6 years sober.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm sure during this epidemic that you clients are missing you when you were probably quarantined, but now I know you said you're back to work. So how's it feel to be back?
It's very interesting. It's kind of different. I love it because I miss my people. My favorite part is talking to them and connecting with them and hearing what's going on in their life. But it's been different and but good. I'm glad to see them. So
Yeah, I'm sure they're glad to see you too.
yes.
I think all beauty is essential.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that actually during quarantine that really helps and makes you feel good, and it's just definitely something that I think is very, very important. So I'm glad. Thank you for
I
serving
appreciate
your community.
that. Thank
So
you.
what is one thing that I can help you with today?
Well, I think for me, it's that connection right now, that connection piece, and trying to make some decisions on how going forward my connection is. I love connecting with my clients, but I've always felt there's more in that. My job is not just cutting somebody's hair. Sometimes it's ministry to them. Sometimes it's talking to them about recovery, not because I share it with everybody, but somehow it always gets led into the conversation if somebody needs to speak about it. I think that is kind of where my struggle is right now, is finding out where the pieces are, because when I was off, that connection was gone, and I thought that he was opening up things and kind of telling me to be quiet and work on some things, and then I started to do that, and then I didn't. So when we got ready to go back, I immediately felt like, oh God, I didn't do all he told me to, but I didn't know what he told me to do. So I was like, what all did you tell me to do? Because I feel like there are pieces missing, and now I'm about to go back, but I'm not finished, if that makes any sense.
It does.
So yeah, so I think that's, I'm trying to figure out the pieces of what happens next, because I know my job when I'm in there is never just all hair, but I know there's more inside of me. Am I supposed to speak to people? Am I supposed to travel? And I feel like some doors are opening and some are closing, even today before I talk to you. So.
Okay. All right. So what is your vision for your life? Like if time, money, education, nothing was standing in the way, what do you envision yourself doing?
So, I've thought about that actually a lot. And it's funny because there's a couple different things and I don't know how they kind of fit together. So, if time, money, all of that, nothing stood in the way, I've always thought of having my own nonprofit. And I've thought about it in several aspects. When I got sober, I actually started working on it, and I started collecting books, trying to give the rehabs in my area material to read. And I started reaching out to the local books stores, half price books, places to donate to get them to the local rehab areas. I wanted to help people. Oh, that's kind of cool. Sorry, a thought passed through my head. I always wanted to help people with like my connection, whatever I had been through, because I've been through so much in my life, not just recovery, but a lot of things that I always thought, okay, I'm not just a hairstylist. I'm not just a mom, I have a lot of things to give. So those experiences, while not all pretty, are supposed to benefit other people. So that's what I always thought, a nonprofit. And then as I got back into hair and got, better, feeling better about being in my, own skin again, and being sober, I thought, well, maybe, I'll help people in all facets, and I'll do hair, but I'll make it mobile, and that's kind of what I thought was I would take it on the road and be mobile, because it wasn't just about doing hair. If I could help somebody feel better, then maybe the homeless guy that I talk to, every week, he feels better, he gets ready, and I can take that mobile and he can go to a job interview after I help him get ready. Or because I've had to be on programs such as food stamps or whatever, I can help somebody through my experience to tell them how to do other things. So my goal is, whatever I do, that I help people through what I've been through. So
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. So using the things in your life to really help them move forward in their life.
Yep.
Going back to the nonprofit, it sounds like that is something that you started, like you said, you started to work on, and that it was like the first thing that you really, when I asked you the question, that kind of came and you lit up. Do you feel like that is something that is still the vision for your life? Like if you wake up in the morning and like your perfect day, would that include going to your nonprofit and helping people?
I do believe it is. I've actually, I get extremely excited about it, because I can't think of, like, there's so many times that I've had things happen that I could help somebody, and I would give them my last dollar or whatever, because I knew that something else would come in. So for me, it's always been, do I like money? Yeah, of course, we all, money's fun. I like to buy things, but I also think about how can I help people with what I have? And if it's not money that I have and I have a nonprofit, yes, then I can give back. And it makes me, in a selfish way, I mean, it makes me feel good, but it also, I can see somebody move past what they've been in, which is what somebody did for me. And so, yeah, that is something I love.
Okay, let's stay here for a second with the nonprofit. If that is a part of your journey, or is in your future and part of your vision, what do you feel like you need to do in order to move forward with it? Meaning not just like the steps, but dreaming about it. What kind of nonprofit would it be? What exactly would be the steps that you would take to help someone?
So for me, as I think about it, I kind of have tried to narrow it down to what facets of life I would help out with. So I looked at the ones that directly I have been involved with. So I've looked at, the fact that I've been a single parent and been to the point of almost homeless because of my choices that I made life choice wise. So I thought about recovery. I thought about helping people in like a foster circumstance, as far as foster children, because when I was in recovery, my daughter was in foster care for a short period. So when I think about the nonprofit, I think of how those areas can be touched. At one point, I had a very different lifestyle, and I made money in ways that necessarily weren't the wisest choices. But because of that, my have nevers or haven't done that yet, those have been crossed. So I can relate to somebody, from somebody that's done this to somebody that's lived in the, huge house and had that. So I think for me, that's why the nonprofit fits, is that it's not just touch somebody that can pay me, couple $100s for their hair. It's also touch somebody that she doesn't want to look at herself in the mirror anymore because of what she's done, and I can give her that change. And sometimes seeing the change on the outside helps long enough until they can feel the change on the inside.
Okay. Yeah. So what would happen if, you just keep moving on in life and keep doing the same thing that you're doing, which you do get fulfillment out of, doing hair, but then also you just don't do hair, you're talking. I really think a lot of hairdressers or therapists, they just don't have the degree, but you hear a lot, and you process a lot. What would happen? What kind of pain in your life what do you think you would experience if you don't move forward with opening this nonprofit?
For me, I feel like the fulfillment is there on a daily basis. We do get instant gratification out of our jobs. We do see people with that. But I feel like the pain that I would feel is that my choices or life experiences or things that I went through were just kind of left out there for nothing. And I know that's probably not necessarily true. It changed me, but I feel it has the power to change others or help others. So I think that's the pain I see. I feel like I did not go through these things to not help someone else. And I don't want somebody to feel as lost as I felt in those areas or as hopeless as I felt in those areas. I want to see people grow. And I think that my growth is a part of whatever I step into. And I've seen it even over the last couple years of choices that I've made that get me further along with where I am now. So, yeah.
So you don't
I think maybe I feel like
pain would be. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nope. Go ahead.
No, I was just making sure I understood. So the pain that you would feel is that you're not able to share your story, or your story won't be able to move and help someone else. So
right. Yeah.
What do you think's holding you back from moving forward with your nonprofit?
I think there's a couple things. I think financially, I've worried about, will the money come through? The uncertainty of kind of filling out to the smallest level, filling out the forms and figuring out how to do it. There's that small level. And then there's also that insecurity of a couple things. One, I have a child, so I'm thinking, and she's a teenager, and I'm thinking on a couple levels of taking her on the road if something happens and I go on the road. But school's kind of changing for people now, so I'm like, well, that kind of alleviates that. I can take her on the road. The other thing is that she's a teenage child. And although she lived through some of my choices, well, pretty much most of my choices, that because they got really bad from the time that she was growing, I don't want to hurt her any further by sharing too much of my story and someone thinking, oh my gosh, that's your mom, because she already had to deal with that when I was drinking. And now that has totally taken a flip. And when they think, oh, that's your mom, like she owns a business and stuff. So I think that's some of the stuff that's held me back, is what people's perception will be. Although she and I are super close, I think we would be able to get through it. I do just think like people's perception when you step out and you say, I'm taking this leap of faith. I know I'm supposed to do it. So it is insecurity, it's fear, and perception. It's all of those things right there. Finances, my business recently shut down, and I went into a smaller space, and I had a girl actually tell me, she's like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. She goes, wait, what am I even saying? She's like, you always bounce back. And I'm like, okay. So I actually felt okay about that. I'm like, yeah, I do always bounce back, but it's the other part. It's the fear of, what's everybody going to think and how's this going to happen? And yeah, so.
Sure. So one thing, I totally believe finances follow vision. And when you start to get on the train of your vision and you start moving forward, the finances are going to follow, right? Because people will support people with vision, especially
right.
you're actually, the vision is not about yourself. It's actually using your story to help someone else out of the situation. So I never want to look at finances as something, I challenge you not to, but fear is real, right? Fear of what are people going to think, fear of like, how's this going to affect my family? But what if you reframe it as an opportunity for you and your daughter that this might be something that she can actually help out in and be a part of? And then what a great way of communication for your daughter to see just like life change, and then seeing her mom as a, confident woman standing up and moving forward in her own dreams, and seeing the effect, because I'm sure you've already helped change a lot of people's lives. I can only imagine what the lives that you would change when you have that nonprofit. So, this could be an opportunity for you and your daughter. This could actually be helping her with her legacy in life. I truly believe we're paving the path for the next generation, right? And
Right.
then the fear of what are people going to think. How has that thought served you in the past?
It has not served me well at
Okay.
all, to be honest. Yeah, it's actually held me back in several, I feel several things. Like when I start thinking about those things, um, it almost becomes like paralyzing. If that's an easy way for everybody to understand, is that when you're trying to worry so much about what everybody else thinks, and kind of keeping that persona on, because you always you had to make sure that even if your life was falling apart back here, when you open that door, you better be on. And so it's been detrimental. It's why I stayed sick for so long in my drinking, because I had learned very well how to take care of things, and in front of people keep it together, until I couldn't anymore. So it didn't serve me well. And today you've actually said opportunity. That's the second time today I've heard the word opportunity from something. So yeah.
Yeah. So if it hasn't served you well, and your past has told you it hasn't, taking that with you to the future and using that as something that's holding you back, it's really up to you. It's to let that go, to decide
Right.
that it's not about what people think, but thinking about the pain of your I would say your story not being told because you're worried about what people are going to think. Because there's so many people that are suffering today in just really in addiction. There's still people that are suffering in their recovery, and they're looking for places, healthy places, where people know, not just with head knowledge or school knowledge, right? Or just they're looking for heart knowledge, people who have been through it before, that can say, hey, I have real empathy for you because I know what it was like to be in your position. And you have that gift. Like, your whole life was turned around, and you did that. And it wasn't just for yourself or just for your family, but it was for other people. So, what about, instead of, because we all tell ourselves stories, instead of the stories of like, people might think that, who is she? Why would she go and open this? Why is she doing this? What about telling yourself and rewriting your stories that you tell yourself, that people are going to be supportive? Man, people are going to love this. I'm going to help that mom who has just been crying all day and doesn't know how to get their child help. I'm going to be the solution. I'm going to have a place where she can come, the whole family can come and see and support her son to get in recovery and to have this whole new life. I mean, what if you started changing the story of the negative stuff of what people say, and start telling yourself the positive things that people are going to say? That might be a new opportunity, a new door for you to really walk through.
Absolutely. Yeah. A different narrative, something else that's going out there versus me putting out the other that I always get back. So yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah. So what about the conversation with your daughter? Would you think that it might be an opportunity could open up for you and her to talk about something like this moving forward?
She and I've actually discussed, like, would something, how would she feel if we traveled? Because, she's my little mini me. I'm not going anywhere unless she's coming. So we have discussed, her traveling, and she's fine with that. I think her, when we've discussed other things about me sharing my story, she knows when it comes to recovery, sometimes it's not my favorite thing to do on a platform, but I like sharing it one-to-one. So I think her thought process would be, she just doesn't want to see me hurt. She's a very loving person, and I'm her mom. And so that's always, I think, how she looks at things, is like, well, if it's going to make you uncomfortable, I don't want you to have to do it. So I think it would just be a good thing of telling her, like, I'm doing it to help other people, or and I know I could share experiences where I know she's helped other people. She's told people when, you know, they talked about something about being in foster care or something like that. She's helped them and talked through them through that. And then those children have actually told me, a child was like, do you know that your daughter told me this, without even sharing that she had went through the same experience? She talked them through that experience and helped them.
Wow.
And she's like, she really helped me. And the girl that she talked to shared that with me, with my daughter not in the car. And I was thinking, oh, well, yeah, I assumed she had shared her experience, but she didn't. She just talked her through it without. So I think once it got started, she would get more comfortable with it. It would just be always making sure that the vision or whatever was going to happen, I made her aware of in turn at that time. And she would get more comfortable as things go on. It's just, it's those things that you don't know how, and I don't want to pass on, I mean, for lack of a better word, a generational curse. I don't want to pass on something that's been passed on, because I know I live in those things because they were passed on. So I think it has to stop at some point, or it doesn't. And I don't want to pass that on to her or someone else. So.
Sure. But her taking the power, of being able to talk about it, her actually, really looking at it, and you both having this conversation about, hey, what if we do travel? What does this look like? If you want to share your story, or how are you going to feel when I'm sharing my story? This is great conversations to start to have with her now, currently, because those conversations can really are preparation for what's going to happen in the future, and how, we never know what our daughter's destiny is going to be, but, this is part of her story too. And so what a great opportunity for her to share, because there's other teens that have lived through this and that are looking, just like the friend that she helped, that are looking for support, and that's not always there to be found. I feel like you have this unique gift, right? And you've got this great desire for this nonprofit. Why aren't you moving forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've let myself be stuck. Honestly, I think that's what it is I've let myself be stuck and given myself excuses. I guess that's the best way that I can put it, because I feel like so many times the money does come, or the help does come, or the vision continues to nag me when I'm sleeping at night and things come to my head. So, I've given myself too many excuses and not listened.
So I have a question. Are you done with the excuses?
I believe so. Yeah. I don't want to be stuck anymore. I don't want to sit in this anymore. Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah. Have you been through enough pain of not moving forward?
Wow. That's a very blunt question. And I will say that that's one I've heard in recovery too. Like, the pain has to get deeper. Like it has to get so bad where you kind of just move on. And, or for some people, until the pain gets so bad, they don't. So yeah, I don't want to be in pain anymore. And I didn't get healthy and I didn't get sober to continue to just sit in it. It had a purpose. So, yeah.
Your pain does have a purpose, a big purpose. It sounds like to me, like this desire is already put in your heart to have this organization, this nonprofit, and I truly believe that even this conversation, I don't even think we had, this session, we thought it was going to go this way. Right.
No.
But look what's came up out of this. So I want to say, give me 2 steps, 2 practical things that you're going to commit to doing after this call, after this session.
2 practical steps, huh? Okay. I would say, an outline for at least the next 90 days with my child, what that looks like. Whether that's school, home, decisions with, what we do. Personally, I think we need to have a vision for, like, take a quarter. So 90 days, something practical for her and I, so that we can kind of look at it I know that's kind of a big portion. Maybe we'll just take it a week at a time, but start out with a 90-day and break it into smaller pieces, so that we can look at it each day. So that's one step.
Okay. Love it.
Is make sure that we do that. And then another step, personally, I think on a personal level, not sharing my vision until I'm ready to share my vision with my family. And that is just something that I know on a personal level that I need to or setting up boundaries if I decide to share that. But for right now, that boundary needs to be that until I'm ready and I've made those decisions, these decisions and these choices stay with me and Kennedy, which is my daughter, until we're ready and we've already made the decisions on what she and I decide is best for us. So, because when I share them, that doubt can be put in. So anybody that's already not aware of this, whether it be you or a friend of mine that I spoke with earlier, I believe that vision just needs to stay with us, and obviously you're viewing people. So
sure, yeah, but not the details of
no,
right.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this: how are you going to know when you're ready?
That's a good question. I personally, I am a believer, and he's not let me down so far, letting me know when I'm ready. So I'm fairly certain he's going to let me know when I'm ready. But I would also say from a practical standpoint that while I believe that you get that heart feel of when it's time, I believe practically things will line up too, which have kind of already started before I got on this call, which I didn't realize until I was getting into this day, how things were lining up. So I think once I start seeing things fall into place, then I'll know it's time to move. And
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is you're going to listen to God, and you're going to listen to yourself, and then you're going to see things start to line up. And I really think in your 90-day plan, having some just check-in points where things are lining up and laying that out are really good triggers to know hey, things are starting to line up, right? And then I love what you said about putting boundaries in if you do decide to, or when you decide to tell your family. I think that's really awesome. Now, I love these 2 steps. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
Who's holding you accountable in your life? Think of one person that after we're done this session that you can call and say, hey, I need you to hold me accountable for these 2 steps.
Okay. Okay. So there's a couple people, and that's funny because I think of these people. There's 3 women that are extremely important. There's more women than that, but there's 3 women that very strong in my life, and they have different roles. So I would probably call on all 3 of them, but in different capacities. So holding me accountable to make sure I'm making decisions and listening definitely would be Nicole, and I would call on her, and making sure that I'm praying about things. She would do that, and she would hold me accountable to that, and she would also hold me accountable to okay, this is what you said you want to do with this portion, and I think she would do that, and she's super sweet. And then financially, if I have goals set up, she would probably do that as well, but I think my sister would too. It's just a little harder for my sister on the heart level because she wouldn't want me to be away. She's not going to want me to travel all the time. So I think that Nicole is good for that because she sees the vision past the pain. She sees the vision past just separating from your family for a minute. She sees the bigger picture. And she can take out the fact that I might miss you as my friend if you're not with me daily. I might miss you as, so I think she has that separation, and she'll allow that regardless if it's, single fam, city fam that I'm in, or if I'm doing that alongside with my nonprofit, she'll give me that accountability, but she'll also understand that I'll have boundaries. So.
Okay. So she'll help you out with that. She'll hold you accountable. Okay,
Mhm.
awesome. This is really great. I'm so glad that you are sharing because I truly believe that there's people out there that you've been wanting to start a business or have a nonprofit or you've
Mhm.
had these dreams, but you've allowed different things to hold you back. And Angel, you have shared some really, profound things that have been holding you back. And I really think that you've helped people today by just really exploring what's inside of your heart. And I'm so excited to see what this nonprofit's going to be all about and to see over, this time next year to see where you're at, to see what's
Me
going
too.
on. Yeah,
Me
I think
too.
that's really awesome. Thank you so much for just sharing. And I really hope that these things are going to help you to move forward in your life and not to stay stuck anymore. And I definitely will be listening for your story. And maybe you can drop back in and tell us where you're at with things. And another time, that would be awesome. So thank you so much for joining us today. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for allowing me to share. I always feel like it's a huge gift when I get to share something. And I'm glad that I didn't feel restricted at all. You're very good to speak with.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's really awesome. Thank you.